Discover connection, awaken sacredness, become empowered. Join us for our show on Blog Talk Radio. Discover your spiritual gifts live.
Welcome to Discover Your Spiritual Gifts Live, show number 29. We're your hosts, Dave and
Vialet.
Our guest today is Tiffany Mair. Tiffany is a certified Sistership Circle facilitator, librarian, and future stepmom. It is her joy to share information, resources, and wisdom in service to others. Insight and alchemy is the embodiment of her spiritual calling to be the light and help others shine brighter. She found women's circles after a period of feeling very isolated from her community. After several moves across the country, she missed her friends and felt misunderstood and unappreciated. She worked in an environment where she did not feel she could be herself or speak her truth. It is Tiffany's intention to facilitate circles where you will be seen and heard without judgment in a sacred space that aids your connection to your truth, heart, and desires. Welcome, Tiffany. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Dave and Vialet. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Well, we love to have you. You know, you're part of our team here at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. And we just like to learn a little bit more about you if we could. So talk to us a little bit more about kind of what led you down this road, what you found in the circles, and what made you decide to do this.
Sure. Well, I've always been a spiritual person. I was raised with that in my life, and I was always attracted to ways to connect to spirit and others in a way that felt meaningful. But for a while, I kind of felt a little moralist. I didn't exactly have a practice. I was doing a lot spiritually on my own, but I didn't really have a community for that. And as you mentioned, I was living across the country with really not a whole lot of people that I knew, and I had a really good job, and I enjoyed my professional life, but I just didn't really feel like I was able to be my full, authentic self. I felt like I was kind of hiding my light, and I also just really wanted to connect to people and feel understood and listened to and really seen by peers. And so it just so happened that I read one of those emails that you get, but you haven't read them for a really long time. So for whatever reason, the timing was right, and I opened this email, and it was from Sistership Circle, and it was about a 4-video series on how to lead circles and how to do that successfully. I had never been in a women's circle ever before. I didn't even know anybody who had ever been in a women's circle before, but it just really appealed to me, and I thought, you know, I've got a little time. Now I'm at this point of transition, but I don't really know where I'm going, and it just seemed right. So I did that 4-video series. It led into my completion of the How to Lead Circle program through Sistership Circle. And I've been with Sistership Circle ever since in their facilitator tribe. I've also recently completed their Business of Circle, which is the second phase and level of certification with them. And it's really just been a powerful experience to be a part of an international group of women who are doing really important work, not only for themselves, but also for sisterhood and the world as a whole. So it's really nice to be a part of something that feels really meaningful and where I can really give back, because for me facilitation is really about service and creating a sacred container where women can come together exactly as they are. There's no need to wear a mask like you might need to in a professional setting or anything like that. It's just, if you are feeling good, show up. If you're not feeling good, show up. And the circle will create the medicine that you need at that moment. and each circle is completely unique, and energy is different just depending on who's there. And so we just trust that when we are in circle together, that we are meant to have that exact experience. And we are not only there to receive, but also to give, because in our sitting in circle, we are also offering something that we might not even understand to another woman in the circle. So it's a pretty powerful experience.
Well, you've been doing them at the center, what, 6 months maybe?
Yeah, about that.
About 7 months, and I attended one of them. Nikki, my daughter, loves to go to the circle, so she tries to attend as many as she can. And I've noticed you have several that are returning and being part of that and coming to the circle. I see people doing women's circle, and I haven't participated as much as most, but I see how powerful it is for folks, for women to come together and be able to share with each other. What are some benefits that you've seen people have gained by participating or being part of these circles?
I think a big benefit is having 2 hours set aside for yourself, for your self-care, for your spiritual exploration, for connection and community. And when you continue to do that, you tend to have a more empowered voice because you're used to being heard in circle. And so the more we're in circle, the more that shows up in our lives as well. So I would say the biggest benefits are connection to our own hearts, connection to community, and also just a spiritual connection and just a feeling that, we're not alone here in the universe. And in circle, we can have a lot of fun, we can be silly, we can dance, we can cry, we can laugh. It's really a space for all of that. And I don't think there's any other space that quite offers that sense of welcoming and inclusion, while also having intention for your growth and universal growth. So we're really working on raising our own vibration and the universal vibration. And the more circles that are happening around the world, the more that will assist in raising that higher vibration and in creating a new paradigm where there are more spaces like that. And so I see it as a part of a larger movement of creating connection and honoring all voices and all experiences, and having a space for us to connect and really hear and listen to each other.
You talk about dancing. You dance in circle?
We do a little dancing. It can feel a little silly sometimes, but when you're doing deep work, sometimes you really just have to shake it out. You want to get that energy moving. And also, we're sitting on the floor, or if you're not comfortable doing that, we also have chairs. But it's just good to get the blood moving, and sometimes we want to do a yoga pose, or we just want to mirror each other in dancing, or we have scarves sometimes. We try to do a little something different each time. Sometimes we'll dance with our eyes closed in case, if I just feel like people may feel a little self-conscious. I really just try to tune into the energy of the group and just kind of feel into what we need at that moment. But it's important to shake things up sometimes.
Dave, we can dance. We can dance. Move the energy, right? Well, I also noticed there's different themes every month. So how do you come up with your themes for each of your circles?
So it depends. Sometimes I just feel moved to do a particular theme, and it also might have to do with the astrology of the moment, or if I'm deciding that I really want to work with new moon or full moon energy that month, that can definitely determine it. But also, as a part of Sistership Circle, we also have some larger themes that we're all working with. And so there are times that I choose to participate in that group energy. So I know that when we're focusing on a certain thing, that there are hundreds of other circles happening that month also focusing on that same energy. And so it can be a really great way to tap into ourselves and the universal vibration, and also just work to really dive into that deeper. And I think you can do that when there are lots of circles happening at the same time.
Very cool. So how do you create a sacred space for people to feel comfortable in sharing? Mm-hmm. So, people out there that want to get together, because we all know that when we put people together, you have to create some understanding so it's a safe place and for everyone to be able to share. And how do you manage that, and how do you set that for people? So people listening, how do they know that it's really a sacred, safe place to come?
It's a great question. Well, I try to be welcoming and be an invitation, and create a space visually that's pleasing, that feels safe and it's beautiful. We will do, depending on what feels called for. Sometimes we'll sage the space, or if anyone feels like they'd like to be anointed with a particular essential oil, we can offer that as a grounding piece into the space. And at the beginning of the circle, we do something that's called a stitch, and that helps connect us all. And so often the way I'll do this stitch is where we're all sitting in a circle around the mandala, and all of us will have a candle, and we will say our names, what we're bringing, and that's typically like an emotional bringing, like what's coming with you today, and then you light your candle. So I might say today, hi, I'm Tiffany. Today I'm bringing excitement and a little bit of nervousness, and then I light my candle. And then we go around the circle, and once all the candles are lit, our circle is connected. And then I will go over some agreements that we create for the space. The first of which is that everything that we share in that space stays there, that it's completely confidential. And also that we agree that we don't have any expectations, that we trust that we are going to receive what we're meant to receive by being in that space. And then we also don't give feedback. And instead of giving feedback, we do something that's called a beam. So if you were to hold your hands in front of you, palms out, facing the person who just shared, and just imagining just energy flowing through your hands towards that person, acknowledging them, letting them know that they're being valued, that they're seen, and that they're heard, no matter whatever it is they shared, if it's really, positive or perhaps troubling, but that you just hold space with them there. And so we go over that, and we have those 3 agreements, and so that takes us through the circle. And I also just try to be an example of what vulnerability can look like. And if I'm willing to be vulnerable, I think it really helps other people trust, like, okay, this is actually what we can do here. But I do think over time it takes, it can take some time for some folks to open up. I know for me, when I was doing my training program, it wasn't until like several circles in where I really felt like I could be fully honest, and that I could really get down deep into what like the root cause of something was. It took me a while. So for some folks, it might take a little while, and that's okay. And if you feel like sharing a lot in circle, that's great. If you aren't in that space, we can hold that space for you too. So we just really try to be accepting and just, welcome you as you are, and create a space where you can share that with us as you're comfortable.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Have you had people come together, like mother and daughter, or sisters, or friends?
I've had some friends come. I don't think I've had any mother-daughter pairs yet. But I do think it would be nice in the future to do like some mother-daughter groups, particularly because, as you mentioned, I'm a future stepmom, and so I really like the idea of coming together with younger girls to help model some really empowered communication and connection, because I think sometimes there can be a lot of just negative baggage on sisterhood, like things being about competition. And in Circle, we're all about communication and collaboration and co-leadership. So we're wanting to model a new way of being, a divine feminine leadership where we're in collaboration and it's just not working all on our own, that we're connected. And I think if we can help model that for younger women, that's just going to help things be that much more positive for them and the world.
I love that, because I think guys get into competition. It's about competing,
Really?
competing. You know, Tom tells me all the time, you know, we're always competing. You know, if you think about children when they were small, the boys are always competing, racing, playing football, sports. It's all about the competition. The girls are typically sitting in a circle, talking to each other, communicating, hugging, sharing, playing. But I think as we've gotten older, women are trying to fit within the work world. And I think
But
that's...
you look at high schools with the cliques,
And
some of those are pretty vicious.
And I think it comes when we start putting them together, right? When we start, you know, getting into schools and that competition piece comes in, and it's always, you know, it's a big thing. I don't know. I just know from being married to Tom, he talks about it's always a competition. Guys are always competing. It's always about competing. And I'm like, does it have to be that way? Does it have to be that way? And when you think of sports and those types of things, it's very competitive. It's very, but yes, young girls competing against each other to be the most popular. There is that competition.
Well, the other place it really comes out is all the gaming, all the video games and stuff. And all the people are competing once again there. And it's like, well, I may weigh 400 pounds and eat pizza and drink beer, but by golly, I can, you know, hit the 21st level on this game. And it's like, you know, to me, I kind of get you know, my eyes glaze over when I hear those things about how do I justify my existence. And, you know, what am I proud of? And it's like, really? You know?
Well, technology's become a big thing. And,
yes.
you know, we're all hooked to the TV, the computer, our phones. You know, we're all the time connected. We're all the time trying to do more with less. I get that. So being able to come together without distractions. I think we need more of not having distractions, sitting in a space and being able to talk to each other. I don't know about you, but I go out to dinner and I look around the restaurant and how many people are on their phones.
Oh, I know. It's disappointing.
Right? They're not we don't talk to each other anymore. And even we'll text back and forth at the same table. Have a conversation. I've had families tell me that, you know, they're texting back and forth to each other, and it's like, you're sitting right across from each other. I mean, we don't talk to each other as much as we should anymore. We don't take that time to... You don't see people sit around the dinner table with families and have dinner as much anymore. We're all so much on the run and go, right? We don't have Sunday family dinners. We don't sit and just talk to each other. And I have Sunday family dinners, and they're still on the phone. I have threatened to have a basket at the front door to collect all phones as they come in the door and all electronics. So they're forced to find somebody in the family to talk to versus being on their phone. So just...
I think you should do it.
Right? The little ones would be like, what?
But I think what you're getting at is about like intentional events where we're being really mindful of why is it that we're here together. And, why are we here? What's the goal? Like, do we want to connect with someone? Do we just need to unwind and be together quietly? Are we celebrating someone? Are we mourning something? And really, like, do whatever it is that intention is really calling for. And when we're present in that experience, then we actually aren't going through the motions. We're actually there in it, and we are transformed through that experience. But if we're, like, doing it through this screen and not really being present, then we're not getting the magic that's there for the offering.
The reality is we don't know how to talk to each other anymore. I mean, as a spiritual leader of a community, I see that. We don't know how to talk to each other anymore. We don't pick up the phone and have a conversation. We don't say, hey, Tiffany, do you have time for me this week? Or we can sit down and talk. People freak out and go, oh, you want to talk? We don't know how to do that anymore, right? Right? We do it all through text message or email. We've lost that gift of being able to communicate with each other. I think it's so important. I think people are hungry for community and socialization and being able to connect, because we don't have it as easily. We're kind of isolated sometimes. You talked about moving across the country and being by yourself. I think there are people that have people all around them that are very isolated. We go to work, we come home, we do our normal routine. We don't usually come out of that. We don't create, ways to socialize and visit and talk to each other. When I first moved to Colorado, like 20 years ago, there were block parties here where the whole community on the block would come together once a year and have a cookout and talk and meet. And you don't even see that as much anymore, of us gathering and actually socializing with each other. And I think there are lots of us that miss that socialization. Not just for women, I think men do too. I think we all do. Once you get out of high school and you go to work, you have very limited socialization unless you've created friends or had a friend base. But do we sit and talk to each other? Because I watch even young people and how they communicate with each other. It's through the phone. It's like they don't know how to sit and really put it aside and really talk to each other. And so I think it's great when we create opportunities for people to come and share with each other and connect and build relationships.
Especially if you have social anxiety in any way, because maybe you aren't familiar with getting together and what it's like, and you have a lot of expectations and a lot of uncertainty and a lot of questions, like what's going to happen here. I totally get that, and I think that can contribute to us maybe pulling back and not allowing ourselves to put ourselves out there a little bit. But I think the more you can practice by being in, just like having a phone call or getting together at an event, because there often are opportunities for us to connect with others, but we won't always choose them. And sometimes it doesn't work with schedules and things like that, because things are pretty busy. But if we can make connection with others and community a larger priority in our lives, then I do think we reap the benefit, even if it feels a little uncomfortable and uncertain at first. And in Circle, I try to create a really safe space where if someone's feeling anxious or just uncertain, that I can do whatever I can to help guide them through that process. I can talk a little bit about, so we're going to go into a visualization and we're going to have this experience, instead of maybe just diving into the visualization, to just giving folks a little bit of a sense of where we're going on this journey together. And people, of course, always have that option to do what feels good for them in that space. But so far I haven't had anybody express that they felt really uncomfortable. And in fact, I've had some women share, I'm not usually a person who would talk, But because it was expected for me to share in this space, I said something that I didn't even know myself, but through that process, they were able to connect even deeper to themselves in a space where they knew it was just their job to be heard and seen.
I think it's so important on so many levels. I really think it is so important on so many levels. And I think we just miss that opportunity of really being in that space of socialization. I mean, if we think about how the world is changing and shifting, and because I keep looking at it, we keep studying it even here at the center, I'm always looking at it from a business perspective. The traditional churches or religious, a lot of that was about socialization, being able to come together with like-minded people, feeling like you're safe in a sacred place, to bring your family, to have connections, to have that socialization. And we see less people turning to that. And then you have businesses like Starbucks, which if you stand back and look at it, when Starbucks first opened, we thought going and buying a $5 coffee was the craziest thing you've ever heard of because a coffee costs 50 cents. Why would you go and do that? But they've created an environment for people to gather. People go there with their laptops and work, so they're not sitting at home by themselves, just to be in an environment where there's people around instead of working from home, because we've got a lot of people working from home. Or they meet there and they do coffee check-ins, or they have socialization. So people do look for that. And even at our center, I think if I had more seating areas, we'd have people coming and gathering at the center to socialize, to meet each other, to hang out, because people are kind of hungry. So these circles, these opportunities for people to come together with similar desires, I think is really, really powerful. Not just for women, but for everybody, right?
Well, we're going to take a little break here. We'll be right back with Tiffany after a few opportunities with DYSG.
Hi, I'm Vialet Rayne, Master and Teacher of Angelic Reiki at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. If you love angels, if you resonate with angels, or you're just interested in learning more about angels, most people really want to consider Angelic Reiki. But Angelic Reiki is more than just working with the angels and learning a new healing modality. It's about ascension. And when you step into Angelic Reiki, you're not only working with angels, but you're working with ascended masters and galactic healers. The angelic kingdom of light, which includes all of those, steps in and helps you be able to hold more light. And what I have found along this journey is it expands your ability to be able to hold light, which raises your frequency, which accelerates your ascension process. So the individuals that step onto Angelic Reiki are really ready to step onto their spiritual path, learn more about angels, ascended masters, galactic healers, learn possibly a new healing modality that they'll use in their life, but also they're ready for those major shifts in their lives to really be on their spiritual path and take their journey to the next level. If you've been thinking about Angelic Reiki, or you'd like to find out more about this beautiful modality, please don't hesitate to contact me, Vialet, at discoveryourspiritualgifts.com, or check out our website under classes. You will find Angelic Reiki there with lots of information about this program and the benefits of taking this course. We hope to see you in class really soon, and I hope to see you at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.
Well, welcome back. Our guest is Tiffany Mair, and we're talking about women's circles and sacred circles. So I have some questions for you. So one of the things I really like about what you're doing, and you can tell me more about how it goes into it, is these days, frequently when you ask somebody, are you religious? They'll say, no, but I'm spiritual. And then here's the problem. You say, okay, help me understand what spirituality looks like to you, and they're at a loss for words. So are your circles helping people to define their spirituality or to come to grips with it?
It's an interesting question, Dave. I don't think the intention around circles that I've been putting in is for people to come to grips with or necessarily discover, but to have a space to express and feel into spirit. So feeling their own heart, feeling the connection with the other women in circle, and also just feeling that larger connection to everyone, every living thing in the universe. And I try to create a non-denominational space where everyone feels welcome. We do respectfully borrow from several traditions, and I welcome people to share and to bring their own experience into that as well. So I think every circle looks really different, and it doesn't have a certain creed necessarily, but we're just connecting in a space that is sacred because we have the intention that it will be, and because we are holding space for every person's highest good, whatever that might be.
Now, in your typical circles, how many people are regulars versus how many people are new?
Well, I think it definitely varies month to month, but I often have one or two regulars there.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's nice because really, the more you're in circle, the more value you get out of the experience. And so certainly you can get a lot out of coming to just 1 month's event, but if you do that within the context of coming in several months, or for coming every month, not only are you building those connections, but you're also getting more and more practice just speaking your truth and being heard doing that, and also having the powerful experiences of the rituals that we go through based on each month's theme.
And typically, how big are the circles?
So we right now have been averaging like 5 to 8 people.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I'm open to having up to 12, but the space has just really been calling in a smaller number. It's been feeling really intimate and good, and I see those circles growing over the course of the year, but it's been a really nice just kind of a soothing space where we're really able to have these close connections and conversations, and where folks have been able to come away with new connections and friends as a result of the experience. And I think you can create intimacy within larger events, but at this point I've just really been liking the juice that's coming out of these smaller circles.
You talked about once wanting to do a women's leadership program. You were working some on that. Are you still leaning towards that and seeing that as a possibility at some point?
Yes. I definitely felt called to listen to my heart in terms of timing. It didn't feel quite right last year, but I'm still doing some of my 2020 planning because I cannot even believe we're 2 weeks into the new year right now. But I do have that on my vision board for the year of coming into bringing more leaders together so we can have a larger event. And I also will be launching an 8-week circle program later in the year. And that's where women will be able to dive deeper into a circle experience and curriculum, really focusing and diving even deeper in a larger container, because you'll be in that with the same women each month, which allows even more growth and connection. So I think there's lots of good things coming this year, but I'm just doing my best to really curate an experience that's going to not be rushed and to just unfold the way it's meant to. And so right now, I'd say I'd see that coming in about 6 months or so. And at the time being, I'm focusing on the monthly gatherings, building those connections, and also making connections with other leaders in the local community who would be interested in putting on a half-day or full-day event for women, where we're really coming together in community and focusing on divine feminine leadership, whatever that might mean to them, and creating an experience that would be pretty unforgettable. But I want to allow the time for that to come together.
I love that. I love that. So you talked about you'll soon be a stepmom. Talk to us a little bit about what that's like.
Yeah, that's another reason why I'm a little hazy on some of these dates, because I've got a wedding to plan.
Oh, congratulations.
In 2020. Yeah, thank you. And I'm not exactly sure when that's going to be. So as soon as we set that date, I think a few more things will become more clear. But yeah, I have been blessed to be in the lives of 2 children, as well as my partner. He's not chopped liver. He's great. And then he has a 10-year-old son and 12-year-old son and a 10-year-old daughter. They grow up so fast. And so we've been in a really close relationship for the past several years. And while we're not married yet, they see me as their stepmother. I see them as my stepchildren, and so we're discovering what that relationship looks like, and just doing our best to create those connections, and how can we be intentional to play and to have fun and to share and to just learn from each other. Mm-hmm. So that's a big area of growth for me and exploration. And I think that, no matter what's going on in your life, Circle is a benefit, because I can share my experiences in this new role, the joys, the frustrations, the uncertainties, and there are other folks around that circle who are maybe stepmothers, or who are mothers, or who had a stepmother. Like, there's just all these ways that we can connect. And so, because we are being our holistic selves in the circle, it's not one of those things where only a fragment of yourself is welcome in the door. You're all welcome, and every part of you. And so when I come to Circle, that's one of the things that I'm bringing, is that I'm, learning in that new relationship to some pretty special kids.
That's pretty awesome. I totally get it, because being a stepmom, when Tom and I talked about getting married, I said, let me make this clear. There will be no steps. Our children will merge to be ours, to look at it in that way, to really try. But there are different personalities, different characteristics. We come to things a little differently. And so you kind of adjust and try to work through it and try to make those connections. You can never replace who their family is. I can't replace being their mother, and Tom can't replace being their father. And so it is learning how to be in those relationships. And surprisingly enough, Tom didn't know that he would fall so deeply in love with my grandchildren. That really surprised him, that he stepped in that way. And it just happens, the longer you're together, you don't even understand or remember them not being in your life. They've just always been there. And it becomes a really close piece. So I get that. Even for all of us, when we're merging and joining families together and becoming one, finding those healthy spaces to be able to do that. So, very cool. I'm glad. So talk to us a little bit. If people want to find out more about your circles or find out more about you, how do they get more information? Where can they go and know when the next one is and what's coming up? Because I'm a planner. I like to have a plan.
I also like a plan. And, sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't, but it mostly works out. So I've been holding monthly gatherings here at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts for, like you said, about 7 months now. So you can certainly find out about my next circle here at the center. But I also have my website, insightandalchemy.com. I always list the next upcoming circle there. And so you can read information about that. We are on Meetup. We are on Facebook. and then tickets are sold through Eventbrite. Or if you want to pay cash, you can just message me and we'll work it out. I'm really flexible to just whatever we can do to get folks there. And I always have a couple of volunteer slots open. So if someone's really interested in coming to Circle, but a $20 investment isn't in the cards for them, I'm looking for a way to help them be a part of that experience. Particularly, or not particularly, but also, I'm also looking for other people who want to share and be in co-leadership. If they have a visualization that they would like to lead, or a meditation, or a song to share, whatever it is, if they feel like that would be something that they'd like to share in Circle, I'm really open to talking more about what that might look like, because I think when we can model that co-leadership and connection within Circle, we're really showing what it is to be a part of that. Because when I'm leading a circle or facilitating a circle, my role is not so much as a teacher as it is as a person to help hold space and to just kind of guide the flow a little bit of the event. But what comes forward is magic that is truly brought by the women who come. So I would say, please join us. Check out the next circle, either with the center or on my website. Our next one is coming up on Sunday, January 26th. It's Your Feminine Soul Women's Circle, and that'll be 3:30 to 5:30, and that's here at the center. And so we'll be coming together and really doing some deep work. The intention behind the circle is for each woman to descend into her shadows in order to witness and reclaim the lost treasure of her feminine soul. So we're kind of taking Persephone's journey and coming back with treasures from the underworld. And so we will do that in a supportive environment where we can just really connect to ourselves and hold space for each other to do this work. And, you know, dance a little bit too.
Well, this show may go live after that one, but there's always one every month. So I would encourage everyone to check that out. I'm going to be working with Tiffany to see if we can get a page up on Discover Your Spiritual Gifts website with future programs in it, because I like to post them out there so people can plan. So I would love to have a page out there for you and your circle so we can talk about what they are, and some that are scheduled out. But I know you're trying to plan a wedding and figure out dates, so I get that as well. But we're going to work towards that so people can have a plan and find out more about you and what you do and what you offer, because I think it's important. And Tiffany does offer a door for those out there, spiritual leaders that do have something to come and share. I would encourage you to do that if your heart's tugging right now, because you're like, oh, I'd love to share this, or I'd love to come and do this, or I'd love to do that. Make sure you reach out to her and let her know. You can reach her on her website, which was, again, one more time,
insightandalchemy.com. And you can always email me at tiffany@insightandalchemy.com. But I'm also here at the center. You can send me a message on Facebook, or really however. I'm really pretty open. But if you have an idea of something to share, I'd be excited to talk with you about it. And I also wanted to mention, Vialet, that in addition to the monthly gatherings that I'm doing here at the center, I'm also doing private events for folks who maybe want to mark a special event in their lives, or bring together some folks in their lives that are really important to them, but they wanted to do just something a little more meaningful or memorable. And we can talk about what that might look like too. So I'm also doing those private circles for in-home events, in addition to the monthly circles here at the center.
Awesome. That sounds amazing as well. Congratulations on the engagement. I look forward to seeing all the wedding photos and hearing about all the excitement.
Pick a date that's easy to remember.
For
for you and him.
Yeah, and him.
Yeah. I've got a couple dates in mind, so I'm hoping.
That's true. I always have to go, when was it? In June we got married. I know the month. I'm not good with dates, so I'm terrible at that. So he is right. An easy date to remember. I know what month
Fourth
it
of
is.
July is a great one.
Halloween.
Or since this is 2020, pick a date that's the 20th. So.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's really interesting how we do that. Well, Tiffany, thanks so much for coming in today, sharing a little bit. I love your circles. I'm so glad that we have them here, and thank you so much for being part of this. And thank you for all those listening.
Our next guest is going to be Carla Morrow, and please stay tuned. We're going to have some highlights on 2 or 3 practitioners and fascinating people. So thank you so much, and have a great week. We'll see you.
Hi, my name is Julie Kay. When I was in high school in Soviet Union, I had an uncle who was a scientist who started introducing me to the world of unexplained. We looked at the past lives hardly discussed in the Soviet Union at that time, other galaxies, stars, planets, UFOs. That was all forbidden in my country by the government and did not show up in the media. When I was 16, one day I was sitting with my grandma outside of our home, looking at the stars, and thought how cool it will be to have this knowledge. Well, I was very interested in all these things. I went to college and kept silent on this subject and got a business degree. I read the Bhagavad Gita and the Mahabharata, which were gifts from my uncle. I had no one talk about this after my uncle passed, where the past lives and stories was fantasies. They didn't make any sense to me, how you can die and be reborn again. I was always interested in the UFOs and ended up seeing them on a plane flight in 1986. That seemed to answer my question about the universe, what is out there. I kept reading many books. I ended up with the Dolores Cannon books. And so on a YouTube interview with her, her work seemed to make a lot of sense with the people, the planet and the universes and the parallel dimensions and parallel realities. She came up with the information that connected clients who didn't know each other. She put the puzzle together. I had a session and I was wondering if I can have a session with someone. I had a session with one of her students and I was so clear. I found out that I could be trained in this, so I pursued hypnotherapy and then becoming a past life practitioner. So I had a second session that provided a lot of answers to me. I now provide this type of the session to client at Discover Your Spiritual Gift based on the Dolores Cannon regression system. It starts with the client providing a list of questions that will be answered during the hypnosis session. This work gives me access to a person's subconsciousness. The subconsciousness has answered to any questions the person has consciously about their life. The subconsciousness can show the right answers and fix any problems the person has in their life. Health, relationships, changes that are desired. They can even connect to loved ones who passed. I'm available at Discover Your Spiritual Gift on Mondays. You can reach me at 303-523-8412. Thank you and have a good day.
I am Colleen Andraste. I am a spirit medium, psychic, and channel for the angelic realm, and I have been intuitive or psychic my entire life. I began my interest in this work as a young child. I saw my mother with my eyes open after she passed 2 different times, so my beliefs were confirmed, and that is what opened the doors for me. How I help clients today is that I'm primarily clairaudient, clairvoyant. I'm also an empath, so I tune into their energy through the vibration of their name, and Spirit will talk to me about what messages they have for the client. It can range, it's wide ranges actually, but my primary goal is to empower my client and to bring them a sense of well-being and peace, and to know that they're always being cared for and they are not doing this alone. They're not walking the earth plane alone. I am available the 3rd Sunday of the month at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.
Discover connection, awaken sacredness, become empowered. Join us for our show on Blog Talk Radio.